name is Bobby Donnelly, known these days as Bobby D, through a 12-step recovery fellowship I'm part of, but I might get into that another time. I also want to thank Klast for, bringing the Bronx ministers in on this project. We greatly appreciate that. I was a Bronx minister back in the early 70s, and I'm here to give my testimony and let you know a little bit about my knowledge and what was going on with the gangs back then, especially the Bronx ministers who I was a part of. How did we start out? Well, President Joey T, he, knew of a baseball team that was called the Ministers way back in the day in the early 60s, and he liked the name, and there were some guys hanging out. I wasn't there when it first started. I came in a month or two later, but they came up with the Ministers, and so that was the name we went with, the Bronx Ministers, and that was probably somewhere around 1971, I believe.
Tell me about your colors and why you're a gang. How did you get to be the name Minister?
Well, in 1962, there was a baseball team, and they had the name the Ministers. And I started growing up, and then I heard of the Black Spades, and they had their name and their center patch. So we were looking through comic books and things, and we found a skull that we liked, and we placed it in the back of our jackets. It looked nice. And now we're proud of it, we're wearing it, because we help, we like the colors.
Show me your jacket.
But we wear them so people know who we are, and we try and help people, with these jackets. We try and protect ourselves with them, they know who we are.
What's the significance of the picture? Tell me what's on there.
That's a skull, a hooded priest, like he's dead. And there's nothing left of him but a skull. And his hood dropped down because there's nothing holding him up. And a burning cross in the back.
Okay, now.
Because this is a white community.
The original chapter of the Bronx Ministers was from Castle Hill Avenue, right around Castle Hill in Westchester, and that's where it all started. Our colors were, basic colors people wore. On the back it said Ministers on the top, Bronx on the bottom. They were red and white. In the middle was a skull, a white skull with a gray hood coming down with a burning cross behind us. And of course, our theme song for our gang, we did have a song we loved, and it was called Sympathy for the Devil by the Rolling Stones. Our turf was probably around Castle Hill and Bruckner, maybe a little past there, going all the way probably up to Morris Park and then some. And we went from maybe White Plains Road all the way up to Throgs Neck, New York, Throgs Neck in the Bronx. And the other parts, we had the Bronx Ministers that became, the Bronx Aliens that became Bronx Ministers up in Throgs Neck. And we were pretty organized, we were all pretty tight. And then we had the henchmen, of course. Richie Burney was the president. And he hooked up with my cousin Billy, and they became ministers. And they were started out around 183rd and Aqueduct and a few other places, Fordham Road. And they landed up around 198th Street and Bedford Avenue. So that was all our turf up around there as well. And as a little bit of time went by, our vice president, Billy Nielsen, I'm going to give his name up, he was more like a recruiter. He converted the henchmen to become Bronx ministers, henchmen from all around the Bronx, and they were a pretty big gang. And the Bronx Aliens from up around Throgs Neck in New York. And then the old Bronx Aliens became ministers as well as time went on. We did have, at one point, a little over 200 members. How long did we last? Well, I'm going to say until early 74, from around 71. That article about the raid with the arsenal and the Bronx ministers and all that in the article, after that raid, we were pretty much finished. Everybody scattered and went in different directions. there was a lot going on with the gang at the time. A few guys took a fall, you know, doing time for some serious crimes, and you know, a lot of people just went their separate ways pretty much after that. Although in that article it doesn't mention the FBI, but the feds were there, because I was there when they raided. And you know, the feds were involved because I believe the street gangs were getting too big at the time. And they started cracking down everywhere, but they don't say nothing about the FBI in the newspaper. I know they were involved in our raid. Yeah, after that raid, it was pretty much over. And a lot of us went our separate ways, but there was, you know, some of us that still hung out together. A few guys from different gangs. Somehow we all wound up together, and we had this crew that we ran, and that's a whole nother story. You know? Something memorable about the Bronx Ministers, let me tell you. You know, I was in gangs from probably when I was 10 years old up until I was 20. My first gang was a gang when I was like 10, going on 11 years old, called the Inwood Terrors. And we all hung out around 170th Street and Jerome Avenue back then. And I was in several gangs after that, leading up to the Bronx Ministers. But, you know, I guess something in general, man, about being in a gang was you had your brothers. There was like a brotherhood, man. You know, you were part of something. You were usually a poor kid out in the street, man, and when there was a gang that wanted to take you in or you could hook up and be part of, man, there was nothing like that feeling of being part of something. You know, there's a special kind of love between the brothers, man, in the gangs. You know, we would put it all on the line. We would die for one another, man. And that meant a lot, man. You know, to be part of something like that, you know, it was something special to be in a gang, man. That's how I felt at them young ages. You know, as a kid, I was always attracted to crazy and negative stuff and off the wall and crazy shit and crazy times. So I always seemed to gravitate towards them kind of people ever since I was a young kid. What that was all about, I don't know. But I can tell you the Bronx Ministers, it was a special time, man. You know, we had a good thing. We were organized. We had a few rules that you had to follow, you know, and we loved one another, man, and we lived for one another. And it was one big party, man, if you ask me. You know, and I can tell you another thing, man. Back then, I lived in my colors. I slept in my fucking colors sometimes. I lived the life 24/7 around the clock, like most of us. Some guys had jobs, yeah, and shit like that. But, you know, the hardened gangsters, the hardened gang members, man, we lived it and we breathed it 24/7. You know, it was our life. Around the clock the whole time, and there was always something jumping off, as a lot of gang members or former gang members out there know, man. There was always shit going down every day, all day sometimes. Rarely did we have a quiet day where nothing went off or nothing jumped off with one of our members in one of our chapters, you know. So we lived the life around the clock, man. You know, it's not like I said one day, you know, hey, I think I'll put my colors on and go out tonight, you know, and be a Bronx Minister. You know, we lived it.